Our next reader is someone that I met maybe more than 35 years ago when we were both models at the art school. And we spent a lot of time sitting still, you and Judy. So I'd like to welcome Judith Copithorne.
Well, I'm not going to sit still tonight. Not while I'm reading anyway. So I wrote a variety of things, all of which are pieces of prose, actually. So, but they're short. So, on that basis, we might. So don't worry, they're short. Well, it's just that I don't want to bump into this chair and knock over my coffee. Great, thank you. Okay. Okay, so okay, so this is set. This is the closest to a poem, the first one, and it has its date. It's very self-explanatory. It's a simple poem, but I enjoyed it, and I've never read it before, and I wanted to read it. And it takes place on the Friday morning of the Easter weekend, which for teachers is wonderful, and many other people. It's the only 4-day weekend, isn't it? Oh, Christmas maybe, but Christmas here, so I don't know what, but I often am. So, okay. And this is actually a fairly heavy poem in some ways. It's a light poem, it's a heavy poem, and so it's interesting. I have as for me to read it. Last time I was going to read it, I didn't. Okay, Friday. Actually, the only time I was going to read it. Friday, April 14, 95. First morning of the spring break. Neptune and Scorpio. Perfidity in the pancreas, in which we get some satisfaction, zeitgeist, solipsism, the 60s and the 90s. Should I refer to who raped me or pretended to be a friend and bought our building from beneath us? Do I talk to him anymore or shoot them all in the back? It's not like I never said a harsh word. Who cares today? The sun is out. The shadows of the leaves look like calligraphy on the window. Goddess, who organized this spring, creator of the Big Bang, intergalactic strings and holidays, who caused the sun to shine in the middle of a million deaths, emptiness and compassion, lucky me to be alive with everyone in their infinite sovereignty. Okay, so then this one I wrote 2 Fridays ago at the opening, because I had such a wonderful time at the opening. There was all these people I hadn't seen. Anyway, I'll read it. So, 35 years after, a show at the Pitt Gallery. It's the morning. Mornings get me sometimes. I like waking up in the morning, usually. As long as I don't have to go to work. Holiday mornings. Saturday morning, May 21st, 99. 7 a.m., air sweet and clear, sun and 50 degrees or lower. This is very prose, very much prose, but it's short. Okay? Not too hot, so the air will stay clean. A perfect day after the opening last night at the Pitt Gallery, 35 years after. I'm probably Fred Amos's age now, and it was Amos's art school where color reigned, and there was hope for beauty, friendship, meaning, and creation. So now, on the walls of this gallery, there are Jane Addams' great fluid brush strokes continuing over 40 years unabated, Judith O'Keeffe's lovely evocations of the schena in all its perfection, Millie Ristfit's translucent and opaque blocks of color sliding between, floating, building themselves in and through the painting surface, and Helen Davies' lovely display. 35 years ago, Diana Loge was there, perfect in her friendly beauty, her harmonious style, now also resonating in her writing. Maxine Gadd was oblivious to me and obviously a genius the first time I met her in her fierce drive towards a passion and fire art. Jamie Reed again had that fire and the same desire to be open to these around him and to support the fantastic realities we were finding. The art school seemed central. There was always someone to talk to. King always was interested in any topic, and his compositions are and were as varied as his interests. His drive to communicate in any language necessary, propelling them into unique juxtapositions. My friend, a dancer and choreographer, talks about the choreography of our lives, and this is so clear here as it was then. The openness that was available to us in the early 60s in that sheltered, privileged environment was priceless. That's not to say that there weren't all the terrors imminent there that always have been. In fact, all I really can say is that for me it was so close to paradise, and this show's opening helped recreate again that friendly intensity. If we could only expand the opening so it included the poetry readings and some other parts of our lives. Remember the dome show at the art gallery where the poets had a translucent dome in the middle? Is there a problem with me? I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't see. Is everybody okay? Opportunity to move into the audience. Without putting my glasses. That's not going to help either, actually. Okay. In the middle of the gallery, and people could come and go. At the art school, Roy Kiyooka was always ready to expound brilliantly on Charles Olson, or Stanley Spencer, or Herbert Spencer, or what was the other Spencer? The fairy queen. Edmund. On Spencer. I don't know if Roy was in Vancouver. How many remember Spencer's? Not many.
Sears is not. Oh no, Sears is.
I'm too embarrassed to admit.
For some period. Or a million other topics. Michael Morris's clear, bright watercolors remind me of him telling me of how he used to go out and spend days painting rocks, trying to become able to directly express them in his brushstrokes. Cherry Gilbert was in England in those days, as I remember, but when he came back, the first things I saw about him were the same things that have never changed in him. His fluency and how his powerful drive to complete self-expression comes over him. Pete Trar was on the Sunshine Coast working on his own. I seem to remember. I first really saw his work when he and Jack Wise produced a magnificent book together. What was the name of that book? Moving Through the Mystery. That would be a great book. I don't suppose you could get it for love or money today. You have it?
I have it.
Yeah. In the gallery, there are a pile of document books where Terry Reid, among other artists, is showing his work in this way. Terry's work in his presence is more ephemeral and yet very present, just as he was through his phone calls from New Zealand on the night of the reading. And I use that word ephemeral loosely. And in this way I'm reminded again that this show brings up many ghosts, living and dead. For me, this show is about artists on the wall and in the books, but it's also about the great conversations at the opening and the poets who are reading the videos to be shown, as well as all those other conversations in the art school and down through the years. The artists and models and teachers and civilians, as my friend calls them. In those early days of the 60s, there was just as much horror and terror, poverty and pain as there is today, or maybe it's just that I was younger. Maybe that's what made my perception so clear, the people so exciting. There were more trees and fish, and there was no NAFTA and MAI, but there was always the demands of society and nature and the various expressions and manipulations of power. As the 60s progressed, the inclusiveness seemed to lead to excess, which led to discreditation in many of the hopeful beginnings. But I'm not propounding some goofy social theory or presenting ideas about different eras. What I wanted to do was write about some interesting things that happened then and now. At any rate, the material is there and worth considering if there is time to spare. Okay, and 2 more to go, one very short. Okay, now this is the most recent piece, written a month or so ago, or 2 months. And this is perhaps a forward to something, or it's a forward to something else I was writing, which I may not finish, and it's sort of about appropriation art, local history, and mostly autobiographical. Okay, and it says, when I was in grade 1, or maybe it was grade 2, a boy sat in front of me. His name was Douglas. Maxine's heard this story before. His name was Douglas, and he had red hair, beautiful pale red hair. I've always loved red hair, and now I've got it too. So for me, Douglas was really something. He had a huge box of the very best kind of colored pencils. You know those big boxes where they're all put in. His father was an architect. I was always staring at him and his pencils until he told me to stop. Stop looking at me, as people are wont to do in grade 1 or 2. Later on, we don't, well, depends. When I was in grade 2, I got to go to the art classes at the Vancouver Art Gallery on Saturday morning. After a while, I discovered Douglas was going too. One of our first projects was to draw something from nature, which I had never done before, or even imagined could be done. I had no idea. I couldn't. I mean, it's this big. You're supposed to make it small. I couldn't figure out how to do it for a minute. It was just a totally new concept, which is sort of amazing. I copied things out of books, right? But yeah, I copied pictures of trees, but not drawn a real one. Douglas, which I'd never actually, okay. Douglas was beside me, and I could see what he was doing. I was very impressed that he could draw the mountain. I was overcome with this new thing to learn. And so I immediately started drawing mountains myself. And Douglas said, stop drawing mountains. These are my mountains, I'm drawing them. And I was horrified. And it was like 10 years before I ever drew any mountain, maybe 20 years. And then 30 years before I drew those mountains, the North Shore Mountains, because they were Douglas's. So that's something about originality, and I don't know what it tells you about originality. longer. And I'm going to try and read what's on the page. Okay, and this piece is about 10 to 15 years old, and it has slightly archaic references like Boy George, who to the younger people here may... So he was, what was he? He was a rock singer that dressed like a woman, or his idea, not like a woman, I don't know what it was, but
Androgyny pop.
Androgyny pop, okay, right.
I had a weekly column in The Observer or some English newspaper.
Okay, so there's Boy George. Okay, and this took place in the old library, up on the third floor in the art section. And I'm reading a book, an art magazine, Disorderly. So I had to move my chair. How long have I taken? Have I taken more than 15 minutes?
Not long enough.
Keep going.
Okay, this won't long. Okay, Disorderly. So I had to move my chair. The table I was at smelt from the man I was sitting across from. I tried to be careful so that he wouldn't notice. All it was aftershave or something, but those perfumes they put in those things turn my stomach. My stomach turns over. Why is it so difficult to explain? Maybe it's not. Definitely not. But the great thing is when the chairs float in the air with the golden light around them. If you are reading this, don't worry. Don't worry. The chairs have gold and fiery light around them. The books give off a light too, but it is internal. Bodies give off their own energy. The street below radiates excitement, horns honking. The night sky is dark, dark blue. But don't worry about believing this. This is not to do with belief. The people pursue their own brilliant patterns and path. The girl behind me has left wearing her delicate deep pink velvet toque. The tables are lit by candles of desire. The traffic hums like an exotic animal. It gives off dark fluorescent green flashes in my mind. The librarians are rushing around waving their arms. You want the white woman? She asks the phone. The boys all wear boots. Lots of people have on silver-colored jewelry. I don't care if she runs off with Boy George, calls the librarian. I don't want to move. Everyone's face is delicate, lined by their lives, their wishes and dreams. The photocopy machine hums in a homey way. I love the library, the most exciting nightclub in town. The boy next to me has on this lovely mauve jacket and a sweatshirt to match. The coins clink and jingle in the copier. The punk girls' silvered and pink heads glitter. The books keep giving off their secret energy. Okay, 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 says the librarian. Voices mutter in satisfaction behind the counter. A boy bangs his guitar on the shelf. Now 3 people are lined up for the photocopy machine. The man next to me is dressed all in gray, his pale blonde hair reflecting his color. The other older man behind me exclaims softly to himself and waves his pencil in the air. In this section, the books are huge, filled with gorgeous pictures. In the window, the color of the books are reflected back in the iridescent shimmer from the mylar coating. The chairs have almost settled in. Pages flap. Everyone burrows into their books, but the air still blows and their bodies still indicate their thoughts. The horns below call. The bodies move silently. The halos around objects become intense. The tables balance precariously, and the books reach out and caress me. They give me words and pictures, words of the desires under the sidewalk, the passions in the reptilian brain. The left bisects the photocopier. Excuse me, says the young man. The table jiggles delicately. It chews the paper again. There's a note inside it. They discuss it. The meanings are obscure, mundane, and delightful. The magazine has Robert Yarber's painting, Victor Hugo's drawings, and tales about or are told in the prison of a hospital. Waterfalls shine in tiny spotlights. Trees murmur in the distance. Ice clinks in glasses. Arms are reaching out and floating again. The lovers in each other's arms, unexpectedly in the air. Arms reach out and return in a pause. Then the scene changes and life continues according to other laws.